pleasure to be here. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's here today who braved the cold weather. I appreciate you coming in person in the middle of winter, and all of you who chose to join us remotely from home. I absolutely respect that too. So welcome to everyone. And this is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart that I'm just so honored to be teaching some of these skills and some of this information that we have. Are we okay? We can't hear in the back of the room. I have such a quiet voice. I'm sorry. I'll try and yell a little bit louder, but if you're unable to hear, it might be better to move forward so that my voice will last through the whole thing. So I'm sorry. I'll do my best. Okay. Yeah. So do we have a mic by chance? No, we don't. No mic.
It's not working, so
that's it.
if
Okay.
you can't hear, I would suggest pulling forward a little.
Do we want to have? I promise I don't bite. I promise. So if you want to move forward, it is. Yeah. My voice is just what it is. That's all there is to it. So, well, let's talk about, while some of you move forward, let's talk about what we're going to learn today and kind of the purpose of today's talk. Okay, I think she said I just need to click anywhere. There we go. All right, so the agenda for today, we're going to first start out talking about the autonomic nervous system. This is the part of our bodies that control what we're feeling and what we're experiencing when stress is present and when stress isn't present, right? Oh.
I think I found the way.
Yes. Our hero, yay! Fantastic. Fantastic.
Looks like it's got a clip right here and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just put it somewhere here.
Sounds good. So you keep this in your pocket.
Okay.
Everybody need anything?
Talk amongst yourselves. There, can you hear me better now? Yay. All right. I'll just do this one. And this one, just like a little bit. Like we're just this way? Yeah. Hold on, it won't stay that way. Is that better? That a little bit better? No? Hold on. Jimmy's gonna help me. Maybe I'll just hold it. How about that? Could I just hold it? I'll just hold it. How about that?
Way better.
Oh, that is bad. Oh, I can hear myself now. Now I'm gonna get self-conscious. All right. Okay, back to our agenda. All right. We are going to first talk about the autonomic nervous system, why we feel what we feel when stress is present, and how our nervous system moves, well, how we move through these different experiences. We're going to talk about stress's impact on the body. We've all kind of heard that stress isn't great. We're going to learn why, what actually happens in our body. I want to mention also the chemical impacts of Parkinson's on our body and our brain. Okay, because there are some things that happen to us when we are experiencing Parkinson's that are less known to many. Okay, so I want to talk about that. And then rather than fighting against our nervous system when we're stressed out, I want for us to learn how to partner with our nervous system. So we're going to work through several strategies that we can do that and help our nervous system work with us. Okay, so we will dive in. Let's learn about the autonomic nervous system. So this is very high level, talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So on one side of the slide, you see the sympathetic nervous system is responsible for what we think of as fight or flight, right? When our breathing gets a little faster, our heart rate's a little bit faster, all kinds of things happen actually head to toe in our body when the sympathetic nervous system starts to kick into gear, okay? On the opposite side of that, the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for what we refer to as rest and digest. This part of our nervous system gets activated when the danger is mitigated, when we've either removed ourselves or beat up the tiger, whatever it is, right? Now we can calm back down. Our heart rate slows again, our breathing slows again. All of the things that were impacted by the sympathetic nervous system now start to calm back down, okay? I want to take the parasympathetic nervous system one step further because there are actually two kind of settings where the parasympathetic nervous system might kick in. Okay. Typically, when we've been in fight or flight for a bit, two things might happen, right? The tiger might go away, the stress may go away. We may be able to fight it off, or we may remove ourselves from that, right? So that now we're back into a safe environment. And that's when that rest and digest kicks in, right? This is what we call the ventral vagal branch of the vagus nerve, right? So rest and digest in kind of peace and calm. We can be curious here. We can, the parts of our brain that were shut down that control kind of impulse control and all of those things come back online, and we can interact with others, right? But if safety isn't gained through fight or flight, very often we wind up going into a shutdown mode. This is the dorsal vagal branch of that nerve, the vagus nerve, okay? This is kind of feigning death. I think about when you see a cat with the mouse in its mouth, right? It's been chasing the mouse around and toying with it, probably, if it's anything like cats I've had in the past, rather than catching them, right? But if the cat catches the mouse, he's now walking around with this mouse in his mouth that is probably hanging there looking dead, right? Okay, the cat got the mouse. But if the cat drops the mouse, then it comes back alive and it's running around, right? That mouse was in full dorsal vagal stimulation, feigning dead, in an effort to at least protect itself and save itself, right? In our bodies, the same thing happens if the stress remains, if the danger remains over a period of time. What that looks like for us is I can't get out of bed in the morning, right? I'm definitely not going out to social events. I'm not getting things done that I need to get done, right? Might look like not getting out of my pajamas for 3 days, right? Has anyone experienced anything like that? I just can't get things done. Yeah, for sure. This is an actual impact of our vagus nerve, okay? The dorsal vagal branch of that nerve, just trying to keep us safe when there's perceived danger all around us, right? It's very helpful if there's a tiger or a bear coming at us and we're feigning death so that maybe it just doesn't notice. It's less effective when we're in society or in a doctor's office and we're just like, too much, I'm shutting down and I'm not paying attention, right? So we want to learn how to back ourselves out of these kind of hyper arousal states. All right. I want to take a look at this autonomic nervous system from another angle with a little bit more detail. This polyvagal chart was not created by me. It was created by a colleague of mine in Colorado, Ruby Jo Walker. She created it based on the work of Stephen Porges, who came, kind of put together polyvagal theory, this vagus nerve that runs through our body and is responsible for a lot of these responses. But this chart, I really love it because you may not all be able to read all of the tiny writing on here. You'll have access to the slides later, but I want to show you not only the emotional side of this, but also the physical side of this and why we're experiencing some of the things that we're experiencing, okay? So the green bar across the bottom here, it represents the ventral vagal, that rest and digest, the social engagement aspect of our kind of experience in the nervous system. When this part of our nervous system is activated, we, again, are settled, grounded, we're able to connect with others. We can feel compassionate, right? All of these things. But on the right-hand side, you can see all of the body systems that are impacted when we are in this state, right? Our digestion is working ideally the way it should be working, right? As far as the nervous system is concerned, we're able to fight off infections easier. Let me read my little bit. Our immune responses, rest and health and vitality is more available to us at this stage. When we move up into fight or flight, the yellow area of this diagram here, again, this is that panic, that rage, where all of the emotions that we feel when we're in fight or flight. But a couple of other things happen if we look at the body impacts, right? Our blood pressure increases, our heart rate increases, our fuel availability increases. We're burning more energy during this time. Our adrenaline increases as well, right? And so when we move up into the freeze state, even more things are impacted too, right? Fuel storage and insulin activity increase even more. Immobilization behaviors happen, all of these things. What we're experiencing in our society right now is a lot of people spending time in this fight or flight or in this shutdown mode. We're like pinging between those two states, neither one of which are ideal for our entire body systems, right? Every system is impacted in negative ways in the short term, and even more so in the long term if we're being in between these two constantly, right? Insulin activity increasing and decreasing and increasing and decreasing. So we want to learn these practices, some ways of living that can help us, first of all, recognize when we're starting to move into fight or flight and bring ourselves back down. Recognize when we're in shutdown mode, and instead of judging ourselves, utilize some of the exercises that you're going to learn today to bring yourself back down, okay? These exercises that we're going to talk about are one little step at a time, right? It's not something that's going to, oh, I'm fantastic, feeling great all of a sudden, right? It's not exactly like that, but using these on a regular basis and consistently can help us just climb a little bit further out of that hole of the freeze state if we're in it, right? Calm ourselves down just a little bit if we're in the fight or flight state. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so there's another piece of this that I want to talk about, and this is Parkinson's impact on our brains and our nervous systems too, right? Most of us are familiar with the movement impact, right? As we're having some movement struggles because of Parkinson's disease. We all expect that. We know about that. It's more commonly known. But I want to talk about the fact that Parkinson's causes a loss of dopamine in our brains too, right? This is a physiological thing that happens because of Parkinson's. It's not somebody being weak or, just not being strong enough to deal with it. There's nothing. This is another symptom, just like movement symptoms, this loss of dopamine. Dopamine has a direct impact on our mood. And this is why the vast majority of those who are diagnosed with Parkinson's experience depression and anxiety at some point throughout their lives, right? So yeah, I don't think I can say this clearly enough that this is a biological impact. This is not just somebody being weepy, right? For the sake of being weepy, it's somebody too emotional. This is, if we can look at depression and anxiety as another symptom that needs to be treated, just like the more physical movement symptoms, then we can get a lot further in our work together and kind of helping with that symptom as well. Okay. You might have heard of these. If you Google dopamine menu, this is quite the buzzword recently in the world, right? Dopamine menus are lists of activities that we can do to raise dopamine in our system, okay? And they're put together in these cute little things that look like a dinner menu a little bit. And that's done kind of on purpose. It's super helpful to have short, little, small, simple things that we can do. And then a little bit larger things that we can do, maybe 15 or 20-minute activities that increase a little bit more. Nourishing and meaningful activities and restorative activities are kind of all separated out for lots of reasons, right? So I'm thinking about times where I've been in my pajamas for days at a time, right? And man, I am not going to go out and socialize. I just don't have it in me, right? But maybe if I've got this menu beside me and there's something on here, I could just step outside for 5 minutes. I think I could do that. I'm not going to get dressed, but I could just step out in the backyard for 5 minutes, right? If it's already there in this menu and available to me, it's more likely that I'm going to do that thing, right? And then once I'm outside, maybe I'll feel good enough to spend 10 or 15 minutes out there and maybe do some jumping jacks or something like that, right? And so we can build on these exercises as we go, but having something like this in a format like this is just incredibly helpful. Also, if I'm stuck in bed for, in my pajamas for 3 days at a time, I'm not thinking about, what might feel good to me other than just staying in bed. So this, just having a visual there is helpful. You can Google it. There's all kinds of templates online for that. You have access to this one. I also have a much longer list of activities that are kind of dopamine producing. If you want that, you can contact me after and I can email anyone that list. Okay. I do want to be really clear about this, and this is just a fact that these activities here, they're not going to replace the dopamine that's lost to Parkinson's, okay? The impact for somebody with Parkinson's of these activities may be a little bit blunted compared to somebody that doesn't have Parkinson's, but there is still a benefit to these activities. There can still be a raise in dopamine levels with these activities, Parkinson's or not, okay? Does that make sense? All right. Here's another tool for us, focusing on the circle of control, right? I don't know about you guys, but most of the time when I am most stressed, I'm focusing on those things that are completely outside of my control, right? All of us, 100% of people have stressors that are outside of our control. And the more we focus on those, the more stressed we are. It's just this kind of vicious cycle, right? Realizing that and pulling our attention back into the things that we can most control, or at least the things that we can influence, we have some control over, is much more helpful and usually pretty effective at reducing stress, right? So it's really hard, you know, we all have stressors, but with Parkinson's and other chronic illnesses, there are a lot more things, especially related to our health and our lifestyle, that fall in that, you know, the widest circle, that completely outside of our control. But the fact still remains that if we can pull our attention back into that inner circle and focus on those things we can control, our stress will be reduced, okay? So let's spend the rest of our time together right in that little circle, focusing on things that we can control, things that we can do to reduce stress, yeah? All right, so the first thing that I want to talk to you about today is mindfulness. Or the real practice that I want to introduce today. Mindfulness has been kind of a buzzword in our society for quite maybe a decade or so lately, and there's a lot of different definitions of mindfulness and some different ideas of what that is. What I want to teach you is how I practice mindfulness, where I learned about mindfulness, and how I teach mindfulness to others, okay? Mindfulness, I learned from Marsha Linehan, who is kind of the mother of dialectical behavioral therapy, okay? It's a grouping of really fantastic exercises. DBT is a grouping of fantastic exercises that help us regulate our nervous system, help us interact with others in a more meaningful ways, and yeah, keep peace and calm. They use mindfulness in dialectical behavioral therapy because of how incredibly useful it is. So DBT teaches that there's three kinds of mindfulness that we use. There's either observing the world right around you, the space around you, or describing the world around you or space around you, or participating in it, right? And I always start by teaching observing. If we simply observe our experience, the world around us, it has tons of positive impacts on our brain, okay? Each of these types of mindfulness do. Observing is so incredibly helpful for us in our society because so often we find ourselves with our minds spinning. How many of us have spinning minds sometimes? I'm thinking of 100 different things, right? Rather than what's in front of me. What mindfulness does is it helps us to calm that down and pay more attention to what's going on in front of us, which is way less stressful than what's going on in our brains, right? So an example of this is earlier today, as I was going through my notes, practicing my presentation, I heard this noise outside my window, right? And it started kind of low and very quickly got pretty loud. And it started, the tone of it was very low, and then the tone got a little bit higher too. And then the tone stayed high, but it got quieter, right? Over just a few minutes of time. And I can hear it. It's kind of this rumbly thing. In my mind, I tell myself a story, oh, there's a motorcycle outside, right? But I can't know that. I think there's a motorcycle outside. I don't know for sure. It could be, you know, those car club guys that take like the muffler off their cars and make it real loud. It could have been that too. I don't know. But the story I told myself was a motorcycle. Okay, I heard a motorcycle outside. The reality is I just heard this rumbling noise outside, right? And that kind of example is pretty benign. It doesn't really matter if it was a motorcycle or a car club guy, it doesn't matter. Where it does start to matter is if we're sitting in the doctor's office and the doctor's just told us, hey, based on your symptoms and the tests that we've run, it does look like you have Parkinson's, right? And immediately our mind starts telling us stories. Our mind starts telling us, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to be able to still work? What's my partner going to experience? How am I going to live in this world, right? And probably for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you don't hear anything else the doctor tells you. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah. This is where our spinning brains start to cause us some trouble, right? And where mindfulness can help us. If we practice what I'm going to teach you here in just a minute, on a regular basis, we'll have access to some of these skills when it matters most, and we'll be able to keep our attention focused on the things that we need to focus on. Okay, so I'm going to invite you all to a short mindfulness practice with me, if you're willing. If you don't want to, it's totally fine. You can opt out. You can just sit still and not participate. Okay, but invite only. All right. But I want to show you a simple practice that I just called boats on a river. In this practice, we're just going to observe the thoughts that are in our head. We're not trying to change the thoughts, manipulate the thoughts, do anything with them, but we're going to imagine that every thought that comes into our mind for just 3 minutes, we just put it on a boat and let it roll down the river, okay? Simple practice. Any one of us have access to this. And so we will take just 3 minutes now and do that if you're willing. What I would like for you to do first before we start, am I getting cut off? What I'd like for you to do first before we start is just take a minute, scan your body, notice where there might be any kind of stress, anxiety in your body, and maybe we can rate your level of anxiety from 1 to 5. 1 being I'm totally relaxed. Some of you who are joining us on Zoom, who might be joining us from bed in your pajamas, might be more relaxed than some of the rest of us, right? Just measure 1 to 5 where you're at, okay? And maybe those of you in the room can hold up fingers, 1, 2, 3, tell me where you're at. And those on Zoom, if you can put in chat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see where we're at. 4, 3, 3, 4, 1. Nice. Okay. 3, 3, 2. I'm about at a 3. Okay. I see 4 in the back of the room. All right. So let's just keep that number in our heads. Do we have numbers online? Mindy? No. Okay. All right. They're really chilling on Zoom. That's okay. That's all right. I'm going to use the timer on my cell phone here. And we will set a 3-minute timer. Does anyone have questions about boats on a river? How to do that? No? Okay, we're good then. I'm going to set the timer. We're going to just spend 3 minutes. Sometimes it's easier if you close your eyes while you're doing this, but you don't have to. It's up to you, okay? Timer, 3 minutes, and we will start now. Okay, coming back to the room. How are we? Let's take, oh. Stop it now. There we go. I thought I hit stop. Anyone willing to share your experience with that? What thoughts came in? What happened in your body? And let's also, while we're thinking about this, take just another survey of your body where you're at. Are you still at the level that you were before? Have you increased in anxiety at all? Have you decreased at all? Anyone willing to share? Yeah.
Free, so I controlled my boats, I loaded them all up with everything I had inside. And I have them in a circle, at the crossroads, just circling around. Yeah, that go.
Gotcha. Oh, so for those who might not have been able to hear who are on Zoom, yeah, this controlling nature did not allow for the boats to go down the river. They're circling. We're loading up everything inside the boats. Beautiful. What was your experience with anxiety level?
I'm up higher.
You're up higher?
Now that I've counted off.
This is one that she may tag on later on in practice and come back to, but not repeating it right now. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, interesting experience. Go ahead.
So I was loading up so many boats, they were kind of going one at a time, and then soon the river was just one boat after another day. And I actually went from a 2 down to a 1.
All right. So we had a crowded river over here. Yeah. Anyone with a less crowded river, maybe 1 or 2 boats. Yeah, there we go. So whatever the reaction is, whatever your river looks like, it's totally okay, right? You can have 1 boat, 2 boats, or a whole bunch of boats. And we might notice that different times that we practice this, that we might have a more congested river than others, right? So this is an easy, free 3-minute practice that you can do as long as it doesn't make you more stressed, right? I would encourage you to try this. If there are other mindfulness practices that you would like to explore, I have a whole list of ideas for practicing observing that I'd be happy to email you as well. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So the point of that is, I mean, there's a lot of problems, right? And you can load up your boat with all of these problems, everything that you can think of in those 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more practical to think of the problems you have in that space where you are in that moment?
Well, yeah. So the idea of this is we're not trying to change our thoughts. What we are trying to do is separate ourselves from them, right? This is the idea of this practice, that this is just a thought flowing down the river. That's all it is actually, right? And as you're practicing this, and thank you for bringing this up, as you're practicing this, you might notice, okay, there's a thought coming at me, coming down the river towards me. What's going on inside of me? And if I am able to let it go down the river, how am I feeling as it's leaving, right? So you might notice that the thoughts that are coming into your head in the beginning might change throughout this practice as you're able to calm your nervous system a little bit. The nature of them might change. You might be able to just completely let go of something like, oh yeah, why was I even thinking that? Right? So that's the nature of this exercise. It's just a separation of, and acknowledging we all have thoughts in our heads. Some of them are really kind of accurate about our circumstance here, and some of them aren't, right? I don't know if my thought about the motorcycle is accurate or not. I have no idea. So, with more important things in our life, if we can realize, like, I don't even actually know if that's accurate. Okay, I'm gonna let that go until I can figure it out. Right? Yeah. Okay, the next practice that I'd like to introduce to you is breath work. This is another thing that's been kind of circling our society for a while now, with a lot of different ideas about what it might be, what it's used for, what are the benefits, what are the risks, right? And so I want to talk about the different kinds of breath work that we have available to us, and how I would use those different kinds of breath work, right? So on one end of the spectrum, we have what I call kind of rescue breathwork exercises. These are things when we're very stressed, when we're very anxious, We may be able to calm our breathing, slow our heart rate simply by breathing, right? One example is box breathing, right? I don't know if any of you have heard of box breathing, but it's where you just imagine a square box in front of you. And I always start bottom left for some reason. I don't know why, but bottom left, I start with all my breath out, and I breathe in as I move up the left side of the box, hold across the top, breathe out as my eyes move down the right-hand side, and hold across the bottom. And we just keep doing that as we calm our nervous system down. I know boxers, MMA fighters use this to help regulate their breathing in between matches, or do they call them matches? I don't know, I guess so, right? To help calm their breathing down and gain control of that during, those kind of hyperarousal states. Another form of kind of a rescue breath exercise that I think of is the 5-7-9 breathing. Anytime we breathe in, our heart rate increases just a tiny little bit. And anytime we breathe out, our heart rate slows down just a tiny little bit. So if we can elongate the out breath while our heart's racing, we can slow it down a little bit with each breath, right? So 5-7-9 is we breathe in for 5 seconds, we hold for 7 seconds, we breathe out for 9 seconds, right? And if you do that for a few rounds, you can usually calm yourself down a little bit, right? This is a physiological reaction. Breathing truly, what I have up here too, it's not the only, but it's one of the only autonomic functions. So things that happen without us ever even paying attention to it. One of the only autonomic functions that we can also control consciously, right? It's a beautiful bridge between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems for tons of physiological reasons too, right? So I love to breath work in a lot of situations. So I've described the ones, kind of the rescue exercises on one end. On the other end, there are the longer, if you see advertised some breathwork experiences in town that you can go to, 60 or 90-minute breathwork exercises that are usually accompanied by some music, things like that. There's always a guide during these experiences. Even as a breathwork practitioner, I would never do one of those 60 or 90-minute practices by myself. I always want to have a guide. It's better, it's safer. I'm able to kind of experience it more completely as well. And then somewhere in between there is another method of breathwork practice that I am also trained in, ancient pranayama practices that are usually shorter, that include breathing and holding your breath in kind of back and forth between those two experiences that can also cause a pretty dramatic nervous system state shift. It's pretty interesting, kind of cool. As long as you feel safe and trust the person that's guiding you, it's a really interesting experience. Most of those, even the ones that I teach, they're a little bit shorter. A lot of them need a guide as well, but I do teach some that you can do on your own. My husband and I both use a morning practice very often to help energize us in the morning. I use a calming practice to help calm myself down, and I teach others to do the same. But what I'd like for us to experiment with today, with anyone who's willing, again, invitation only, is a shorter practice. Not quite a rescue practice, not quite a longer one that needs a guide, but something that you can do on your own, maybe 30 seconds, that may shift your nervous system just a bit, okay? So any of you who are willing, what I'll say with this again, first of all, I just call it 20 connected breath. It's a pretty simple practice. What I'd like to do before we get started again, as I'm describing this to you, just check your nervous system again. Let's rate where you are, 1 to 5, anxiety level, 1 totally relaxed, 5 a little bit more anxious. Let's see where we're at. Then I'll describe this to you and we'll begin, okay? So this 20 connected breaths is a set of 4 sets of 5 breaths, okay? And then we'll end it with just some natural breathing. The first set of 5, we're gonna do, it's straw breathing, what I call straw breathing. So we're gonna breathe as if we're breathing through a straw. It looks like this. Oh, goodness. Right? Okay. I will hold that away from me when I do the rest of them. This second set is open mouth breathing. So like that. Okay. The third, we're going to close our mouth, breathe through our noses like this. Okay. And then we'll go back to straw breathing for the last set of 5. okay? Each one of these sets, we're gonna have 4 breaths that are kind of quick. We're gonna focus on the in-breath more than the out-breath, right? Like this. The out-breath is just reactionary. The in-breath is where we're putting the effort in. Okay, we'll do 4 quick ones and then 1 long, deep one, okay? And I'll guide you through the whole thing, all right? So if you're willing, if you're ready, if you don't want to do this, you can sit it out. You're in control, okay? All right, so we'll begin. I'm going to pull the microphone away. Ready with the straw breathing. All right, back to natural breathing. Just some normal breaths. How are we feeling? You might feel a little tingly, maybe a tiny little bit lightheaded. Anyone lightheaded? Yeah, a little bit. You might feel a little drop in your body temperature. If not your whole body, your fingers and your toes might feel a little bit cooler. That is really common in breathwork practice. Anyone, let's do our body scan again. Anyone increase stress or decrease stress? Any changes?
Decrease.
Decrease. Okay, nice.
Decrease.
Decrease, 2 decreases. Anyone on Zoom decreasing stress? We're quiet in Zoom today. That's all right. All right, so this is a simple, free, easy practice that you can do almost anywhere. I'd say maybe don't do it while you're driving, but any other place you can do this just really quickly to shift your state, right? We're looking at ways that we can change our state, and the act of taking control of that, right? The act of telling our nervous system, okay, let's use what we already have in our bodies to change the state of our body, has a definite calming effect.
Would that help during like a full panic attack, doing those breaths, if you're having a full anxiety attack?
Yeah. That would be helpful. It may be a tiny bit activating if you're having a full panic attack. Let's take an aside from my presentation. I'll give you an exercise that's really helpful with panic attacks. That was the question. If this 20 connected breaths is helpful during a full-blown panic attack. There's an exercise that I teach that can and has pulled many people out of full-blown panic attacks before, okay? I call it the power of 3s, all right? So it's 3 exercises done 3 times each, one after another. Pretty simple, power of 3s. The first is 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths, okay? So we're taking breaths down into our belly, keeping our shoulders low to the floor and relaxed to the floor. So 3 deep breaths, right? We can do a longer out breath, even better. One more breath. Very often what happens in a panic attack is we lose control of our breathing and we start like really, right? Very shallow, quick breaths. If we kind of force that deeper diaphragmatic breath, it already takes us down just a little notch, right? The next thing, number 2, is to look around the room in front of you and name and briefly describe 3 things in front of you, right? So for me, I see my book sitting over on the table over there, face up. I see a white chair, kind of not mesh, but kind of meshy looking chair, right? And I see the computer that I'm using to run this show with, right? So that's 3 things, just simple in front of us. Wherever you're at, name that, right? So that's exercise number 2, 3 things in front of us. And the third one is a little bit harder. It's naming 3 qualities that we each possess, right? So if I have to name 3 qualities about myself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Well, I think I'm pretty decent at explaining difficult things in an easy to understand way. People tell me that. I'm a pretty good listener. People tell me that. And I like to make things fun. That doesn't always come up with me professionally, but I like to make things fun. So those are 3 qualities I possess, right? So that is the power of threes, right? So the first exercise is bringing our heart rate down, gaining control of our breathing. The second one, if we can name three mundane things around us, there's no tiger here, right? It's introducing safety again, right? Which happens when we're in a panic attack. We are absolutely in a lack of safety, right? Nothing feels safe. But if there are three mundane things that I can see, we're introducing safety into our nervous system. And the third one, what happens when we're in a panic attack? This prefrontal cortex, we lose access to that. This prefrontal cortex is what helps us with impulse control, helps us with interpersonal communication. All of our higher functioning happens there. It completely goes offline. If we're having to think about qualities that we possess, that's forcing that to come back alive for us, right? And so that's why it pulls us, that power of threes pulls us out of a panic attack a little bit better than a breathing exercise alone. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to our plan here. Okay, so how many of us have heard doctors and everyone tell us that we're supposed to exercise, right? Lots of reasons we're supposed to be moving and taking care of our bodies, longevity, balance, all those kinds of things. I want to talk about body movement from a mental health perspective, okay, from a nervous system perspective. If we're able to, on purpose, put our bodies into some stressful situations, like in yoga, those uncomfortable positions that we put ourselves in yoga, right? Or Tai Chi or Qigong, any of these. If we, on purpose, put ourselves into those positions and then pull ourselves back out when we want to, we are training our nervous system that, hey, number one, I can handle stress. It's actually okay. Not all stress is terrible stress. I can do this. And I can pull myself back out of it. Your nervous system that, has maybe not been on the same side with you all the time starts to become an ally, right? It starts to gain some trust in us. We can actually do this and it's okay. So if you already have a regular body movement practice, I would ask you just shift perspective a little bit from this is something that I have to do because the doctor said I had to do it, to I'm doing this on purpose to help take care of not just my body, but my mind, my nervous system too, right? Anyone doing any of these things on a regular? Yes, good. All right, I know we better be, that's right. That's right. All right, this last suggestion that I have sounds simple until you're in dorsal vagal shutdown and you're stuck in bed all day, right? The idea of connecting with other humans and being in community, we've probably all heard how important that is and how beneficial that is and all of that. But I really want to meet you where you're at and understand if we're in shutdown, if we can't get ourselves out there, I want you to know I get it. I understand there are other exercises in here to help with that, but I want to talk about some options that we have when you're in different kind of states of nervous system arousal, okay? If you've been in your pajamas for 3 days, getting yourself out into a support group might seem like too much, even though it's really great to connect with people who are going through what you're going through, right? It might feel like a lot. If you can possibly get yourself to support group, the groups that the Parkinson Support Center offers are amazing, right? So do that, get yourself out there. If you can't do that, some intentional time with a close friend, somebody where you don't even like this picture on this slide is two people facing each other, really like into a conversation, maybe enjoying each other's company. That might even be too much, right? If that's too much, sit next to somebody, invite somebody to watch Netflix with you, right? Something like that. Can we just do something just to be together? Even that might be too much, right? How many of us have text messages or voicemails that we haven't been able to return? Right? It's just too much. It's like a fire hose sometimes, right? Maybe just returning a text message. Hey, sorry for the slow reply. I've been underwater over here, but I'm thinking about you today. Love you, whatever it is, right? Just a simple low effort connection like that can get us one step up, right? We're thinking of that dopamine menu. This might be on that little easy piece, just text somebody, call somebody, something like that. And then maybe we can do the next step, right? And the last thing I would say is if you're really struggling, professional support is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. If you're struggling, you deserve support. We've got a lot of stressors on us, many of them outside of our control. Working with a professional can help you kind of at least pick apart which ones are outside of your control versus what's in your control, right? Yeah. All right. I don't know how we are for time. Are we good for time? I hope we are. So, yeah. Thank you. If any of you want any of the longer lists that I offered, my contact information is here for the longer dopamine menu, the practices of observing, any of those things. I also just want to say, I mentioned this earlier, a while ago, became a bestseller. It's called Trauma Recovery. Some of the exercises that I taught you today are in this book. There's a whole bunch of others. This is actually a 90-day guidebook. There are calendar pages in here to track your experiences with each of these because not every exercise is for every nervous system, right? So these are for sale in the back. For those of you who are watching on Zoom, you can also contact me. I can get you a book in the mail, okay? All right, very good. Give here. Do you want this? Oh, do we want to just, yeah. Oh, yeah. Any questions at all?
Is that information on the flyer that I have at home?
Maybe, maybe not, but I also have cards here with that
Oh, okay.
information on it. Okay, yeah, they're in the back. Mhm. Any Zoom questions?
Any Zoom questions, put them in the Q&A box.
Yeah, put those Zoom, yeah, anyone on Zoom, if you have a question, Q&A box. That's it. We've got a quiet Zoom audience today. That's okay.
15 people there.
There, okay, that's all right. Any other questions in the room? No, we're good then. Okay, do you want to take this?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Jolyn. That
so-
was wonderful.